2, 1.
Great. Well, Kathy, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to introduce her and EdX as well. Oh, okay. So EdX is a nonprofit, massive, open online course provider, so a MOOC provider, and an online learning platform. The organization was founded by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Harvard University in May 2012. EdX features 461 courses and is currently educating several million students. Kathy Pugh, who we have on Skype today, is Vice President of Education Services. She directs and oversees the management of the EdX course development teams and is responsible for university relations with EdX consortium members. Kathy has spent time working at many businesses and startups and was most recently in charge of global services at Corin Corporation. So without further introduction, introduce Kathy. So thank you, Kathy.
So thank you for inviting EdX. Anand would have loved to have done this, but he is, I think, in Abu Dhabi, giving a presentation there. So I will have to admit this is my first Skype presentation, so you'll have to bear with me as I fumble along a little bit. It's a very different kind of feeling for me, at least. So thanks for the introduction, and I have prepared about 10 minutes probably worth of some information that I'd like to share about EdX and what we're doing in the MOOC and online learning space in general. And I'd be happy to take questions either as they come up, if my colleagues over on that side of the telephone line want to help figure that out, or we can save them for the end, whatever you all are comfortable with. So, as Jack mentioned, we have, several million learners at this point, and by learners those are the ones that we're tracking that are in MOOCs. We have many, many more of those, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And we have managed to climb from one course in 2012, which was Anand Agarwal's Circuits and Electronic courses, to something over 450 courses at this point. A little bit more information about EdX and what makes EdX different than some of the other MOOC providers and online educational technology or platform companies is that indeed we were founded by Harvard and MIT, and we made the decision to be a nonprofit organization. We are one of several nonprofits, but in the space in which we feel like we can compete, or we do compete, we are the only nonprofit. We also made a big choice back in June of 2013 to have our platform be open source, enabling anyone to pick up the platform code and stand up their own version of EdX called Open EdX, and that's been very successful. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. We are up to 3.5 million users who have registered for more than 10 million courses at this point. And we're pretty proud of that fact because we've done that with far fewer partners than some of the other folks in the space. So at this point, we have about 70 partners, largely made up of higher ed institutions across the world, and a handful of other institutions that we feel are very much in alignment with our mission and are helping us meet the goals of the worldwide learners that are in need of and desire free education. We, as a nonprofit, we are obviously a mission-based organization. We have three basic tenets of our mission. One is around access, and that is largely to provide free access to some of the best courses provided by the best institutions in the world. Second tenet is around helping our partners, our higher ed partners, improve education on their campus, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And then the third mission tenet is to, at this point, to provide an opportunity for our partner schools to do research in this online space as well as what they're doing on campus. At this point, EdX doesn't do a whole lot of research independently. We really provide the data and provide the analytics enabling our partners to conduct their own research research on education, online education in particular. So, in preparation for this, I spoke to Jack a little while ago, and he asked for me to share some of EdX's successes with you, and I'm happy to do that. We have been around for about 3 years. I've been on board for 2 of those 3, and we've made a ton of progress in a relatively short amount of time. I mentioned the NOTS course, so that was a big success for edX. It was the first MOOC that edX provided, and it fell into the realm of sort of what we call around the office a blockbuster course. Over 150,000 students registered for that course, and it happens to be a very long course. It really is a forklift of Anand's online course from MIT, putting it online so it follows sort of a normal campus type length and schedule. It's a 17-week course. It's quite rigorous. It's a standard MIT course, and it's sort of, the breakdown goes something like this: 154,000 students enrolled for the first run of the course. 95,000 students did something in the course. They looked at a video, they tried an assessment, they did some readings. Of those 95,000, 69,000 did at least one problem on the first assessment. From there, it starts to whittle down a little bit, and in the end, about 9,300 individuals or students took a midterm, and in the very end, 7,000 students successfully completed the course. There's a real great human interest story about this course that I'm sure you all have heard. There was a young man in Mongolia who took this course and had a perfect score, and based on his performance on this course and many other factors, to be honest, but this did have a big impact. He ended up being a student on a full scholarship at MIT, and I think he's a senior now. So it was a great feel-good story all around. Since that time, in 2012, when Anant ran this course has run again every semester, and it just keeps building a student population that is a thriving community that has experienced this course, and people that took the course the first time around have come back to take it again because they feel like they're better prepared, or they want to help other people taking the course. So it's a pretty interesting case study for us. Some other successes that we've had is around the types of partnerships that we've been able to forge, not only with our school partners, but outside of that. We have 3 nations that have formally entered into an agreement with edX where we support them with using Open edX, our open source platform, to advance education in their countries. Those 3 nations, that as we refer to them, are in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and China. Every decision that we make at edX, we make sure that we are following our principles, our mission-based principles, and partnering with these nations felt like and has been a great fit. Primarily, the 2 Middle Eastern platforms were stood up to help educate their own people in the region and to reach folks that are prevented from matriculating at school. So women have less of an opportunity to go to school in Jordan, and even less in Saudi Arabia, as well as the underprivileged actually have hardly any access whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, we actually just signed another partner in the past week that you may have heard of, the Library of Alexandria in Egypt, which is sort of trying to do the same thing, which is to get education out to people that don't have access. And a lot of times, at least in the Middle East, it has to do with the gender issue. We've had some recent successes around bringing new types of content to the platform in the format of a free MOOC. And what I'm talking about specifically in this case is we held a request for proposals about a year ago now to all of our partner schools and a handful of others. We had received a grant from the Arnold Foundation as well as some individuals to provide seed money to create high school and AP level courses and that has been a great success for us. There's something like, I think 15 subject areas covered off across 40 some odd MOOCs that have either run on the platform or will be running in the near future. And we're going through a second round of that right now because we received additional funding from an organization headed up by Stephen Klinsky. I think it's called Modern States. And through his generosity, we were able to send out another RFP and provide seed money for covering off a whole bunch more subject areas in AP, as well as additional introductory freshman level and sophomore level college courses. There's been many research papers that have come about through the support of the data that we make available from the platform to our partners, and you can easily access, if you just do a Google search of edX, the words edX and research, you'll get right to our website, and there's numerous research papers there about online learning. And there's a new one, if you're at all interested in the MOOC research papers, there was one done in collaboration between Harvard and MIT that talked about the first year of their experience with MOOCs, and they're following it up with their second year experience with MOOCs, and I think all told, the research is based off of something like 70 classes that have run on edX, so it's a pretty good sample set. Last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about, for a moment, the use of edX on campus. So going back to the mission and the three tenets, we do wish to provide a means for our partners and others to help improve education on campus. And we have had a tremendous amount of interest and success in supporting our partners utilizing the edX platform on campus in their traditional on-campus courses. Of our 70 partners, over 25 of them are using the edX platform on campus, and they run a flipped or a blended class. At MIT, at this point, not surprising, they were one of the foundational or founding partners of edX. They have probably the most prolific use of the platform on campus, and something like 4 out of every 5 students at MIT take at least one blended class. I'd like to just share with you for a moment one of the success stories of a blended class at MIT. I didn't happen to go to MIT. I'm more of a humanities person myself, but there is this notion of the 5th week check-in. It's quite famous at MIT, and they track how the freshmen are doing in their core courses. And in the 5th week, they check in to see how people are performing, and if people are having difficulties in their courses, there's an intervention. In some cases, they can continue on in the course. In other cases, they actually have to drop out and take summer courses, things of this nature. In any event, in this one particular case, I think it's solid state chemistry. The professor who has utilized the edX platform, I think, in 2 or 3 semesters of that course, that freshman core course, they have whittled down the number of freshmen that needed intervention from 23 to less than 5, which is pretty significant for them. It's a pretty big success story. So we're pretty proud of that, and we're here to support our partners in using the platform successfully on their campus. Last but not least, I do want to make a plug for my colleagues more on the technical side of the house at edX, and that is around having an open source platform. So what that means, for those of you that don't necessarily know what that means that we provide our intellectual property, the source code for edX, to anyone in the world that cares to use it. We have over 900 that we know of, and there's probably many, many more installations of Open edX around the world. There are thousands of courses on the installations. I mentioned to you the few formal partnerships that we have where we really know exactly what's happening in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and China, and they're getting their own success metrics, and they are very pleased with the results that they're getting from the utilization of the platform. So that's a little bit about edX, a little bit about how how things have gone over the course of the past 3 years. I will say, and then I would like to open up to questions if that's okay. Another area where we are seeing some success is around building out a sustainable model for MOOCs. MOOCs are labor-intensive, time-intensive, and in some cases require, a decent amount of funding. It's our commitment to ourselves to become a self-sustaining nonprofit organization, and we intend to help our partners do the same. To that end, we have experimented with and adopted a couple of different models. We continue to always be committed to providing great quality courses for free for anyone in the world that can access them. But we also have some models where students can pay a fee and receive sort of value-added services. So if you're ever on our website and you check out a course that's a MOOC and you see a little flag that says verified certificate, you can opt into, as a student, you can opt in to take a course and have your identification verified and pay a small fee, or at least small by Western US standards, to receive a certificate that's slightly different than our standard certificate where your identification is verified. We've introduced the notion of a series of courses where, again, you can take those courses for free, or if you would like a higher level accreditation around this verified certificate, you can take the series of courses and pay a fee for that. But again, these are always available for free at the same time. We also recently launched our professional education. Sorry, I just got moved. The sun has just moved in my home. Or not in my home, but in any event. We've also just launched professional education. We've had some really great successes, both with private versions of these, where a university has decided to work with edX to host professional education for their target set of students, or run professional education on edX.org, where anyone in the world could sign up for those courses. And that is proving to be a pretty significant model for driving sustainable revenues back to the schools. We will never partner with someone that only wants to offer courses for a fee. There always has to be a robust and healthy offering of free courses to benefit those that aren't able to get at them any other way. So that's a little bit about edX. I'm sort of watching the clock in the back there because I don't want to go too far over time. I'd like to open up to questions if anyone has any.
I don't want to start off.
Sure.
Can you hear from back here?
I can.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so I was curious, what is it about edX that allows the nonprofit model to work as opposed to the other large MOOC organizations that do have to try and turn a profit? Like, what is the organizational difference that works?
Sure. So I wasn't around for the founding of edX, but so I'm not exactly sure how the conversations went. I would have to imagine that when Harvard and MIT came together, that was their objective, was to create a nonprofit organization. For us, it makes the most sense. We partner. 90% of our partners are nonprofit organizations, and it makes the most sense. It provides us a great deal of flexibility, too, because we can make decisions that aren't based on profits and margins and things of that nature. And it just, I'm sure at the time that the decision was being made, it just felt like it was the right way to go.
So hello, I have a question. So you've talked about a lot of the classes that you have for students that students can take. One of the big issues I've heard right now is in a lot of high schools, junior high schools, elementary schools, professional development funds are being cut. Is there any movement or any desire for edX to create courses for professional development for secondary high school teachers along those lines?
Sure. Yeah, so that's a great question. So a couple of things on that. So there's one university that is utilizing edX to do just that, to create some professional development courses. They are doing it in a very focused way, and they're utilizing the edX platform to create these courses that they're going to pilot in a private way locally first and learn from that, and then hopefully they will be successful courses that they can then offer to MOOCs. We also were part of the Connect Ed initiative that comes out of the White House and the Department of Education. And back in November, we were part of a very large announcement that actually President Obama made himself, and I happened to have the great honor of being there for part of that announcement, or to be participating in that announcement, where a whole bunch of different organizations came together, people providing hardware, software, bandwidth, and for us, for edX content. And we I want to say, almost a dozen of our university partners agreed to create very specific sort of teacher professional development around using technology in the classroom, to create those courses, provide those courses to teachers for free for a number of years. And that announcement happened in November, and we need to get all of those courses squared away and up and on edX.org by this November, and we're on track to do that. So we're very, very committed to it, and we were asked by the Department of Education to participate in a very focused area on the Connect Ed initiative, and we will continue to do so. There's also some professional teacher development courses from MIT on EdTech specifically already on the platform too. So that's the long way around of saying we're very committed to it.
Thank you.
Sure. And I should say, to be honest, our partners are very committed to it.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you again for your time.
You're most welcome. Thank you.